Secrets of the Sussexes, on air. Prince Harry is back on British soil, and on paper the plan is simple: a 4-day trip, his beloved well-child ceremony, a few right shots with children and volunteers, a private visit to his grandmother's resting place in Windsor, and maybe, just maybe, a quiet chance to sit down with his father. In theory, that's a small story where the personal outruns the loud. In practice, it all crashed again into the mirrored wall Harry flies with everywhere: security, optics, title. Where people ask him simply to come, he brings conditions. Where a call "I'm nearby" would do, he lays out a technical spec for the meeting. And at that point any chance of a quiet conversation with his father balloons into another media bubble that pops in the foyer. It began, as always, with glossy arithmetic. An LA arrival trailed by lenses, as if a man tired of the press had given them a spare key to his suitcase. A private stop at the Queen's Memorial, so private the whole country knew about it before the flowers were dry. Well-child footage, kind, needed, well-delivered, exactly the beats Harry has taught the camera: smiles, playful balloon duels, bright children's faces, short lines about courage and hope. The problem is that behind it all you see him again, not a person, but a genre. Even warm charity starts to feel like a content format when every gesture is both a gesture and a setup. And when Catherine appears elsewhere in the feed, steady, unhurried, the spotlight follows her without effort. Not because she shouts louder, but because work beats storyline. The real reason this trip won't become a reset isn't the pictures, it's the paperwork that's shadowed Harry for years and now, by all accounts, even surrounds the idea of entering his father's office. The conditions package, the label sticks to him like a baggage tag. Full top-level security for him, Meghan, and the children, paid from the king's pocket. Not the budget, how generous, but still a check-marked meeting with son. Full control of the picture, no awkward shots, no stray questions, no accidental overhears, everything to script, everything as it should be. And the sharpest seam, addressing Meghan as Her Royal Highness, curtsies, formal styles, as if nothing had happened these last years, as if there weren't words, interviews, and decisions that removed that styling from official life for good. If that isn't an ultimatum, what is? Harry's defenders will produce the standard kit: his unsafe, the tabloids will hunt, his protecting his family, the palace should meet him halfway. On paper, tidy. But one simple test cuts through the padding. Picture an ordinary father having a hard time, and his adult son living abroad. What does the son say before he visits? "Dad, I need a 6-person security team on your dime, handle the press my way, and please address my wife strictly as." Or, "Dad, I'm coming, tell me when it suits you." If you choose the first, the issue isn't safety, it's the rules you use to cover pride. Another stroke clarifies the picture: William. No big statements, no "about my brother" interviews, no signals via friendly mouths. He simply lives by a schedule whose subtext is clear: there's no point meeting while any word can become someone's podcast. Not cruelty, not teenage sulking, hygiene of quiet. Trust for a man who turned private into product isn't restored by one cup of tea. It's rebuilt by years without cameras. And years without cameras isn't what this biography smells like. On the contrary, the private is perpetually packaged right down to a charity evening, where a casual "so, doesn't your brother annoy you?" rings like a tuning fork Harry himself uses to set the press to the right note. This time a teenage honoree said things are fine with his brother, and the whole score hung in an awkward pause. The reflex showed: every dialogue is a mirror for one wound. Windsor carries the same aftertaste. A private chapel visit on the anniversary, beautiful on paper. In fact, too many coincidences reaching headlines too fast. And, unhelpfully, up floats the memory of the night the Queen died: frantic calls, fights over who had the right to be there, the push to wedge a camera of personal presence into a sacred moment. The palace had to rescue the silence then, and now it won't betray it. No accidents, no back entrances, no "we were nearby and dropped in." Either it's clean and quiet, or it doesn't happen. For a monarchy, that's not a whim, it's survival. Where's the king? In the hardest place. A father will always find room for softness, however sharp the words list of conditions. He may want to see his son, hear his grandchildren, overlook old scars, not because he forgets, but because fatherhood isn't bookkeeping. But the king isn't only a father. Any public concession becomes a rule of court, not an exception for love. His best love for his son is a strict framework in which meetings happen only as the system allows, no stagecraft, no commerce, no secondary rights to the story. Anything else hits the institution, and the institution will outlast any family. That's the genre rule Harry never learned. Meghan stands offstage, physically in California, symbolically at the center of the table. Her absence in Britain always plays a double role: I'm not in the way, and I'm still in the room. Part of the conditions hinge on her status. The logic is odd but familiar: if you can't bend the institution, try to bend its symbols. Every time this game surfaces in back-channel retellings, the effect is the same: doors close before you reach the step. Every house has rules: you enter on them, or you don't enter. That offends me is a poor argument when you're asking respect for a ritual you publicly mocked. To be fair, Harry's charity track can't be waved away. He gives time to well child, he genuinely smiles at children, he can read a room. But charity is always about the after. What remains beyond photos? What got easier for the system? Who sees you not just on stage but in budgets, programs, the long grind with no applause? Trip to trip, the main gift Harry brings is to himself: images. Too little to beat the calendar, the one his father, brother, and Catherine live by. A calendar built from lines of real work, not headlines. There's another truth it's time to say. Desperation is a bad director. The harder Harry tries to come back, the louder the emptiness around the comeback sounds. The more I'm ready for peace signals go out, the clearer it becomes that peace, for him, is a stage where he's always the lead. But peace isn't a stage. Peace is showing up without demands, sitting without cameras, listening longer than speaking, and leaving without a press release. To do that you have to unlearn living in a series about yourself. And that series is still too profitable to cancel before the end credits. Ask who really takes the risk here. Not Harry. He always has a spare airport, a team to rewrite the message, and an audience to sample the new tone. The risk is the king, who cannot afford a public mistake. The institution, which a phony compromise bruises harder than another bestseller. The family, which needs moments of memory to remain memory, not a prompt for another column. And yes, Harry himself, because sooner or later even his warmest fans tire of watching every bridge turn into a stage. Bridges are for crossing, not filming. So the end of this week of hope is obvious. A meeting with his father is possible only without paperwork, title demands, or staged light. Anything else is a path to it didn't happen. With his brother, less so. Memories are long, and the distance to fresh leaks is short. Windsor's lived by a quiet rule Harry dislikes but can't outmuscle: never explain, always remember. That formula has no room for ultimatums dressed up as reconciliation. And here's the moral Harry keeps hearing and still resists. Love doesn't bring a price list to a visit. It doesn't invoice for protection. It doesn't demand your wife be titled for your ego. It doesn't rewrite the press pool on your terms. Love does one simple thing: it shows up. If you truly want to see your father, you go. If you truly want respect, you stop demanding it. If you truly want peace, you go quiet. Everything else is noise that drowns the click of the lock turning from the inside. Not today. Harold isn't a taunt, it's the week's diagnosis. As long as you arrive with an if sheet, this house won't expect you. The door isn't sealed forever. But it has one handle: unconditional silence. When you choose to turn it, we may finally see a moment you won't try to sell. And then, maybe, this story can end in the realm of people, not series.